Uh, MadMac, welcome to the show.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Awesome,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. You're coming in good. No echo
All right,
either.
cool, cool. Yeah, I've been wanting to meet you, man. How you? It's good to finally talk to you.
Yeah, yeah. Back at you. Welcome to the stream, man. So how's it going, dude? You look like you've been resonating around these communities for some time. I remember a few
uh,
comments you've made regarding your backstory, certain things like that. So I have a somewhat of an awareness of you, man. But yeah, it's nice to
right,
meet you.
right.
It's good. It's good to talk
Yeah,
to you.
definitely. Likewise, brother. Yeah, I'm 35. Uh, I lost my parents to a murder suicide when I was 13, and that made life very hard, of course. Uh, but my dad, he taught me a lot about religion, and for him to take his own life like that really, uh, you know, messed me up with religion for a long time. Uh, but flat Earth has brought me back around.
So let's get into it,
Go ahead.
man.
What's
I
up?
mean, you don't have to you don't have to say anything you don't want to say. But I remember you had mentioned that previously before in the comments that you went through this traumatic
Right.
event as a child. So I'm assuming it was your father perpetrated the murder on your mother, then he took his own life. Is that what happened?
Right. Yeah, a
All
very
right. So
successful
that's
man. You go ahead.
no. You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say how successful and a genius my dad was, and of course, one love, is all it takes, right? And of course, the fear of the kids going and all that. I mean, this guy was successful in music. He could build a car, a house. He could just do anything. He was on his way to being a millionaire. He died before 9/11 happened, so it was like 2000. Uh, but a lot of this flat Earth stuff, man. I just and NASA, I just can't help but think if money, not just to be all about money, but money wasn't going towards this program that in our lives, and this money was our government was using the money for other things that I just can't help but think my dad and my parents would still be around if there was more options, uh,
All right. Interesting
better
point you're making.
resources.
I hear what you're saying. You're making a point that I often think about. I'm like, okay, so let's think about all this tax money we have. We work, and 30 to 40% of what we do goes to taxes. There's all kinds of taxes
Definitely.
everywhere, and apparently NASA at this point is getting $70 million a day. The
It's
question is,
insane.
for what? If those like us are correct, and I think we are, they're just putting on an elaborate, basically a special effects show for everybody. So here's the thing: why not take these resources if we lived in a culture, in a society where the government actually was here for the betterment of the citizens? You would think that we would have these resources go into programs like mental health care. Maybe
Mental
people
health. Yep.
have places to turn to if people in rough times. You'd have that. Now, I'm not a believer in government subsidies anyway, but that's not
Right.
the
Right.
point.
Right.
The point is,
Yeah.
if we live in a culture where our taxes are going towards something and the government is subsidizing certain programs, why are we not focusing on the things that really matter? I always say this, Mac, and it's similar but different. If we're on Mars, okay, if there's multiple private entities on Mars, if we have multiple nations on Mars, multiple nations on the moon, how is there one child in this world that goes hungry? How is
Yep.
there one bridge in need of repair? How is there one fucking pothole on any of the
Hmm.
roads that run through this supposedly great nations? It doesn't make sense, and it shows the lie, because only a civilization that has reached a certain level, only a civilization that has realized a particular potential would embark on extraterrestrial travel. It's
You
plain
are.
and simple.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like our we would be doing different things for us to be going to the moon successfully or whatever. Not that we could get there anyways, but if we were traveling space, we would have our government would be so much different to be doing things like that. Uh, yeah, and also too, I just can't help but think, if my grandpa, if my dad's dad, his dad, if they didn't go to school and learn about all this stuff we learned about the heliocentric model, if they had known there was a creator and was taught there was a creator, and then opposing ideas, but if they everyone's decision would be different. It would just be different,
Right,
and
it's a
then
good
that
point.
means it would
It's as
trickle
you
all the way down to me. I was illiterate my whole life. I'm not a good reader in LD classes, special ed classes, whatever. I'm like, everyone tells me they would never guess that I couldn't read because I retain so much knowledge and I can talk about it like forever. But yeah, so I was in, miss, read and put in LD classes and yada yada. I just wasn't understanding words correctly all the way. But anyways, our school systems would be better. Everyone learns different. There'd be, yeah, if this money wasn't going there and it was coming to the people, and it's been doing that for my parents' whole life, their parents' whole life, everybody's decision would be different, which means my parents would be alive right now, and I would have learned things that my dad could have taught me that was on genius level stuff that I never got a chance. I never knew my parents as adults. I always, I just knew them as my mom and dad, argued every once in a while, and then the next day they were gone. You know,
Hey,
but
good morning,
Right.
Z. Can I jump in real quick? I got to get back to work.
Yes, Smith, what do you got for us?
I just wanted to say good morning. I love the direction of your broadcast the last couple of days. I didn't mean to comment and cut your monologue short. I think it was brilliant. Yeah, and your point to bringing up the $70 million a day to NASA. It's $300 million per day to Ukraine since the war started. It's $20 million per day to DARPA. And it's, I believe, around $50 million a day to Department of Defense, or I mean to Homeland Security. So it's
and it's
nearly
sick. Yeah, we got people
nearly
hungry on the streets and homeless. Like, what's going on here?
Well, it doesn't make
nearly
sense on
half
the
$1 trillion
face.
a day.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It exposes the whole system and the charade that it is completely. And what MadMac is saying here goes to what people keep saying. They say, what does it matter, Z? What does it matter, Z? What matters is
Yeah,
MadMac is pointing out the consequences of an entire civilization who is living under a mass psychosis and delusion. There's consequences. Because here's the point, MadMax. You said your father was maybe religious or spiritual in some sense. But what I find is
yeah.
people have segmented their spirituality away from themselves. We hold
hmm
spirituality intellectually, but the reality is we live in a spiritual world that can be experienced.
He
They
was very
hid
confused. Yeah, right. If there
right,
was a heaven or hell, if he knew there was a God
exactly.
and he was being judged or whatever, his decision would be different. It would have been different. It just all would have trickled different. I might not have been born, but at least the government would be better.
Right. When people say what does it matter, the
Yeah.
consequences are
What does it?
innumerable.
Yeah, I
The
can't. I get that
consequences
so
are,
much.
you know what it is, man, Mac? It's the idea that people, when they say what does it matter, they're basically saying what does the truth matter? But it's more than that.
Yeah. hmm
It's not a genuine question that they're asking. They're not really
No, it's
asking
not.
what does it matter. They're putting up
Right.
a psychological defense mechanism to
That's
protect
exactly what it is.
themselves. It's not. That's why you see more and more. I'm talking about this meta level analysis of the situation. What are the emotions? What are the beliefs? Because that is the real challenge: is breaking through people's indoctrinated belief system. Because when they ask,
hmm
what does it matter? What does it matter, Z? What does it matter? What does it matter? They're not asking a genuine question. They
Not at
are
all.
evidencing a psychological defense mechanism that to me is
Right.
only natural. Let me ask
Mhm.
you, Mad Mac. You say, and this, some people kind of think this is a trope, but it's true. You say that when you were able to discover the lies of this world and see this world in a different way, when you're able to look at the world through different eyes,
hmm
it then typically brings one to a different understanding, and it often affects them in a spiritual way. It kind of
Oh
seems
yeah.
like that's been your journey. Maybe tell us a little
I've
bit
been
about
very
it.
depressed, and I've always known I couldn't take my own life because I would have done it a long time ago. So I always consider myself a pussy in that aspect, but at the same time, yeah, the confusion of being, wiped out at any moment, by a meteor. Before I'm going to bed, all these thoughts, I've just come to so much peace and knowing whether I've done bad things or not, and I'm going to be judged for them. Now at least I know there's a creator, and I just wish my father would have for sure known. I don't care how much you think you know, flat Earth makes it absolutely provable. And it was right there in front of us the whole time. I don't know. It's just so crazy.
Right. And here's the thing, MadMac. So many people think it's silly because they're so programmed. Even me sometimes. I'll be going
Yeah.
through my day and I just think about, I'm like, oh wow, like I can see how this is so silly to so many people because we
Mm,
almost look like fanatics. We're like, oh, but God, can't you
right.
see but God? But that's not really what it is. We're just showing you something that you were unaware of. How you experience that is your journey. What we're doing, we're saying, hey, you believe in something that all objective reality is evidencing the opposite. We're
Hmm.
trying to show you that nothing more, nothing less. I'm not trying to convince you of anything because people say to me, they say, "Oh, Z, I'm not convinced. Oh, Z, that
Yeah.
didn't convince me." Well, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm presenting you information. What you do
Hmm.
with that information, Man Mac. This morning, I presented. If you were watching or not, I presented a mountain that is viewable from 254 miles away. What you do with that information is not on me. That's on you. Now you
Right.
know it because maybe before I said that, a person never heard that. Here's
Hmm.
the thing though. Here's the rub about it is about when you hear certain things is you then go from being ignorant to willfully ignorant because before when you believed in Santa Claus, you were ignorant. But once I kind of like told you that like, hey, here's like evidence that mommy and daddy, here's the receipts. They bought the gifts. It didn't come from
Right.
Santa's workshop. Oh, guess what? Those footsteps you heard when you were trying to go to sleep last night, that was mommy and daddy putting the gifts under
It's
the
all
tree.
fake, right? Yeah.
Right. Once I give you that information, now, if you still believe in Santa Claus, you are now willfully ignorant, which
Right.
implies something because there's consequences because now you're lying to yourself and that's insanity. I always say you
It.
can lie to the world. You start
Hmm.
lying to yourself, you're insane.
That's why I always say too. You can't. These people aren't being honest with themselves. And you know what? It seems like too. A lot of these scientists that came up with this heliocentric model and added on to it and whatnot is what it seems like is they didn't like the idea of a creator, so they wanted a new idea. Maybe they did something bad in their past, or they just didn't like being judged or watched. So they came up with this new model, a new thought process that has now been put in our books and taught to us as truth.
I'm consistently bringing this up with people who resonate around these communities because what I'm finding increasingly is an isolation and a loneliness that I think needs to be corrected and worked on in a
Mm,
proactive way. And I think that if we are not consciously working towards creating in real life physical support structures, families, and communities, we are going to be in a very precarious and increasingly precarious situations. So I'm going
definitely.
to ask you, what are you doing in your life currently to foster relationships?
To foster relationships, like about this subject, or
No,
about like.
no, regardless of truth, because here's what I'm realizing. We're finding these communities here, but I think we are engaging in just a higher level of social engineering when we're participating in this. I'm noticing this more and more is that although the cream is rising and we are resonating with each other,
Yeah, I mean,
we are doing so at the detriment of real life interactions. Here's my point. I'm currently making an effort to in my community build relationships, even if they are subtle, even if they are small, with other people in real life, people who may know nothing about these topics, people who may have completely different beliefs.
Mm,
I'm actively engaged. It could be, as I said the other day, I go to a local bakery and the older woman behind the counter just say, "How are you? Good morning. Lovely weather today. Oh, is
mm,
that a new bread that you have? I would love to try it. It's wonderful to see you." Small little interactions, building things with people, because here's the thing, Mac, we find ourselves in a very, very discreet community. We are the, let's say, we are the tip of the spear when it comes to embracing truth. And the reality is, Mac, I don't think, well, I'll put in a question. I'm not sure, or I wonder how much others are even capable of embracing truth. Their journey may not be ours. So, what does that mean? It means when we interact with them, we need to be the ones who take the high road. We
mm-hmm.
cannot interact with them on an equal
Think it.
playing field. We
Mm,
must be the ones who embody humility in our interactions,
we,
knowing that they are probably very, they are very likely not going to be able to see the things we see. So, what I'm
mm,
saying is, my thought is that I think it would be beneficial for many of us to actively engage in developing in real life relationships, knowing the circumstance, knowing that we may not get the fulfillment that we're looking for, tempered
mm,
with realistic expectations, approaching relationships with people. Because I'm finding, to a man and to a woman, the ones who resonate around these topics, around these issues, are increasingly alone and isolated. I think it needs to be actively worked
mm.
against. Go ahead, your thoughts.
You know, I agree. Like my buddy the other day, I was where she was just we were talking about girls and me dating again. I was like, I just don't think I could even possibly date anybody that is not a woman that's not has any engagement. You know, she'd have to know something about flat Earth or the biblical cosmology or whatnot. You know, at least to some degree, because I couldn't. You know, if I had a teacher, which would be cool too if she was open minded, but for the most part, I'm going to come off like an arrogant dick and saying these things that she does. It'd be very hard to just to engage a brand new girlfriend relationship with this. uh, yeah, I don't know. That would be very difficult. So
Let
yeah,
me
I
ask.
definitely want to look for a
Yeah.
girl that like definitely somewhere on my level. But like I was gonna say real quick, my buddy, I planted seeds a while back, good almost 5 years too, about flat Earth, and he joked around, and I proved some stuff, showed some stuff. So he's been open minded, but he's been staying with me the past few weeks, and just some of the conversations we've been having, and just how much I keep repeating water's got to be contained at levels, it has to be contained, and the 8 inches per mile square, that's not a thermath, and we didn't even learn it, and it's not provable. I'm telling them all this stuff about gravity, and and I've told them this stuff before, but don't get me wrong. I was telling them how bad, this stuff hurts because of my parents. If they just would have known some of this stuff, and how their decisions in life, of course, I'm starting to tear up when I'm telling him this stuff, because he knew my parents. And he was like, damn, bro, I just didn't realize like how much you were into this. And, you know, like how serious this really is. He was like, I need to start looking into this, man. Cause, you know, clearly you're serious. And I'm like, well, bro, you're not. You might think you're living to your fullest, but you're not. You could be living to your a full potential that you don't even know. And if we had the money coming, our dreams, our small dreams of just going to school, of gaining the knowledge, like I just wanted to do, stop motion camera stuff my whole life. That should have just been an easy thing. Nothing paid. I should have just already have learned that. My basic goals. This, with the government just should have stuff set up so much better and freer and more open, and with that money, $70 million a day, we could all be living, you know, I listen to the Iron Republic a lot too. I don't know if you heard that whole book, but that book and the government in there is it's something to inspire to. I mean, the government system is just it'll make you cry. It's so beautiful. It's like it's like what it says in the Bible, how he's gonna to bring heaven down on earth. The government and God having this government system and a certain elect people. That's what I feel like too. Is us people that are open to this, have the ears to hear, eyes to see, and the ears to hear, that we will be chosen after a death. Like we clearly are open minded and we heard it, and God wants these people to hear this stuff to govern His. If you believe in all that, I'm just saying, to govern His city or His. And I definitely believe, yeah, there's only a certain amount of people that are really knowing and believe this stuff. It's not even a belief; it's a knowing, and that we will be rewarded for it. But I can't go anywhere without not talking or correcting somebody about some of this stuff, because I feel like if I don't, God would be like, "Hey, man, you could have told that guy." I don't know. I don't know. I just want to make an effort to give at least everybody this chance to hear that there is a creator, and the way I talk about it, they could see how positive I am about it. And then, if they want to talk more, they could realize how unpositive I was in my past, you know, but now where I'm at, my mindset, I sleep better at night knowing, space, all that stuff. I love Star Wars. I love all that stuff. I pretty much love the heliocentric model in space as an idea, but all that stuff, all those movies now, they just show me that.
Isn't it weird,
that's
MadMac? Isn't it weird watching those movies now and just
right.
seeing the propaganda like
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, and I'm like, oh, now I get it. Like,
Right.
dude, the propaganda goes so far back with this presentation. It shows that it's not a mistake. It's an engineering program, right? So they
But yeah,
engineered this
they
purposefully.
definitely did. But the way to look at it now is just to watch this stuff, and now for a fact, anything that Star Wars is showing or whatever space, that is all fake and will never happen. Never. And that's how I look at it. I have fun watching it, but and of course, it's fantasy stuff, but at the same time, like my buddy was like, I never thought Star Wars could ever happen. But I was like, but you did think gravity was real and that you could fly maybe to another planet, hopefully in the future someday. But just having your mindset to where that is the absolute not going to happen, getting on a boat and sailing to a new land is the more plausible
Right
way to
on.
look at it,
All
traveling.
right, MadMac, thanks for coming up. Give your
Thank
final
you,
thoughts
bud.
for the audience and come visit us
Yeah,
soon.
thank
Okay,
you.
man?
Love the chat. Love everybody I chat to on there. Glad I got to talk. Thank you, Z.
It was nice to meet you finally face to face. MadMac, everybody.